Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something that, well, it completely reshaped medicine, really. Saved so many lives. We're talking about antimicrobials. Just think, 100 years ago, a simple bacterial infection could be fatal. These drugs were game changers. But, and this is the crucial part, they're not. They're not harmless. There are significant side effects. And bigger than that even is this escalating global crisis. Antimicrobial resistance, or AMR. It's a really serious issue.
Exactly. And that's our mission today, to sort of unpack that dual nature. We need to look at the range of adverse reactions people can have. We'll zoom in on one particular class, fluoroquinolones, because they have some pretty severe consequences. And then we'll connect all that individual harm to the massive public health challenge of AMR. The goal really is to give you the key info fast, because understanding this helps us all be, well, smarter about how these vital medicines are used. It's about stewardship for the future.
Okay, so maybe step back for a second. What exactly are antimicrobials? Just the basics.
Right. So at their core, they're substances that fight infections. They either kill microorganisms or stop them from growing. We generally group them into four main types. First, you've got antibiotics. These are for bacterial infections. Think strep throat, UTIs, bacterial pneumonia. And the crucial point here, honestly, is that they do absolutely nothing against viruses. Colds, the flu antibiotics won't touch them.
And using them for viruses is a big problem for resistance.
A huge problem, major driver. Then you have antivirals, which target specific viruses, influenza, HIV, COVID-19. Very specific drugs.
Okay.
Antifungals for fungal issues like athlete's foot or more serious systemic infections, especially if your immune system is weak.
Right.
And finally, antiparasitics, things like malaria treatments. They fight parasitic diseases.
Got it. Four main classes.
Now, let's get into those harsh realities. Beyond the benefits, some effects are pretty common, maybe mild nausea, diarrhea, maybe a rash, things people often expect. But it can get much more serious. There are severe allergic reactions, anaphylaxis that's life-threatening, hives, swelling, trouble breathing. And though rare, these really devastating skin conditions like Stevens-Johnson syndrome, SJS, where the skin blisters and peels off, horrific.
Wow.
And beyond allergies, these drugs can be toxic to specific organs. Your kidneys, your liver, aminoglycosides, for example, can harm kidneys and hearing.
Hearing too.
Yes, ototoxicity. And some affect the nervous system, neurotoxicity.
Okay, this is where I think it gets really, really interesting and frankly concerning. Let's talk about fluoroquinolones. FQs. Things like Cipro, widely used, but they seem to have a particularly dark side.
They really do. It's complex, but FQs can interfere with your cell's energy production, the mitochondria. But the really distinctive and damaging thing is their effect on collagen.
Collagen, like in skin and tendons.
Exactly. It's the main structural protein everywhere. FQs can disrupt it, weaken connective tissues, tendons, ligaments.
And that leads to these systemic effects.
Precisely. Musculoskeletal issues are common. Tendinitis, yes, but also actual tendon rupture.
Rupture, just from an antibiotic.
It sounds shocking, doesn't it? The Achilles tendon is the most common site. The risk increases significantly, especially if you're older or taking corticosteroids.
That's alarming. What else?
Neurological problems, sometimes irreversible peripheral neuropathy, that's nerve damage causing burning, numbness, tingling.
Yeah.
The FDA put a warning on that.
I remember that.
And then there are CNS effects, anxiety, confusion, insomnia, even psychosis or chillingly suicidal thoughts. Another FDA warning there.
Goodness, it affects the mind too.
And the heart. They can cause dangerous arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats, and even rarely affect the aorta, the main artery, potentially causing dissection or aneurysm. Another warning.
This is a lot.
It is. And metabolically, they can cause severe drops in blood sugar, hypoglycemia, sometimes leading to coma. Particularly risky for older adults or diabetics. Again, flagged by the FDA.
So this collection of symptoms has a name now, right?
Yes. It's being recognized as fluoroquinolone-associated disability, or FQAD. It's when you have disabling symptoms affecting two or more body systems lasting more than 30 days. Often, it lasts for years.
And it's underreported.
Massively underreported. Some estimates say 99% of cases might not be formally linked or reported, which is staggering when you think that over 14 million FQ prescriptions were filled in the U.S. just last year.
Wow. That lack of reporting makes it hard to grasp the true scale.
Exactly. Though new billing codes are coming, which should help with recognition.
Okay, so FQs are a stark example of individual harm. Let's pivot now to the bigger public health picture, antimicrobial resistance. AMR.
Right, the overarching global crisis. AMR is basically when the microbes, Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites evolve defenses against the drugs we use to kill them.
They get smarter than the drugs.
In a way, yes. They mutate, they swap resistance genes with each other like trading cards. They can pump the drug out or change the part of themselves the drug targets. It's microbial evolution on fast forward.
So what does this mean for us? For healthcare?
The consequences are dire. At least 1.27 million deaths globally in 2019 were directly because of AMR. In the U.S., it's over 35,000 deaths annually, maybe more if you include related infections like C. diff.
That's huge numbers.
It is, and it makes infections harder, sometimes impossible to treat. It means longer hospital stays, more toxic second-line drugs, higher costs. And critically, AMR threatens modern medicine itself. Surgeries, cancer treatments, organ transplants, they all rely heavily on effective antibiotics to prevent or treat infections. Without them,
It rolls back decades of medical progress.
potentially, yes. The economic burden is also enormous, billions annually in the U.S. alone, projected to skyrocket globally.
And we're not developing new drugs fast enough to keep up.
That's the other side of the crisis. It's scientifically hard to find genuinely new classes of antimicrobials, and frankly, the economic model is broken. New antibiotics are used sparingly to preserve them, meaning low sales, low return on investment for pharma companies compared to, say, chronic disease drugs.
So it's a perfect storm, really. Increasing resistance, dwindling pipeline. And what's the main cause driving the resistance side?
Fundamentally, it's the misuse and overuse of the antimicrobials we already have.
Like antibiotics for colds.
Exactly. Or not finishing your prescribed course, giving bacteria a chance to survive and learn. Agriculture use is another big factor, but human healthcare misuse is critical.
So wrapping this up then, what's the big takeaway from this deep dive?
I think it's that antimicrobials are truly miraculous, revolutionary tools. We absolutely need them. But they carry real risks for individuals, sometimes devastating ones like we saw with FQs, and their widespread use, especially when careless, is fueling a global resistance crisis that threatens all of us. It's a delicate balance.
Which really underlines the need for action. What kind of action?
Several things. Definitely more judicious prescribing by doctors, really thinking, is this antimicrobial necessary? Is it the right one? Avoiding them for viruses is key.
Better surveillance too, right? Tracking resistance and reactions like FQAD.
Absolutely. And basic infection prevention hygiene. Vaccines reduces the need for treatment in the first place. Plus, research into things like microbiome-sparing therapies.
Looking ahead, what gives you hope?
Well, there's movement on revitalizing the drug pipeline, new funding models, public-private partnerships. There's exciting science and alternative therapies like phage therapy or targeting resistance itself. And increased global awareness and collaboration. We have to tackle this together. Personalized medicine might also play a role eventually.
So we'll leave you with this thought. Imagine a future where common infections, things we barely worry about today, like a skin infection or pneumonia, become potentially deadly again. What happens when our last lines of defense fail? Preserving these life-saving medicines isn't just a medical issue, it's really a responsibility we all share for the future.